Can we confirm here today that there is no court order of any kind that limits your ability as a witness before the grand jury to discuss your own testimony to that grand jury?
We can confirm that pursuant to my action that grand jury testimony has been released, the transcript.
Right from the very first seconds of this explosive Senate hearing, FBI Director Kash Patel was spectacularly caught in a blatant lie. Cornered by Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, Patel was forced to admit there was never any court order preventing him from revealing his grand jury testimony, even though he had shamelessly used that exact excuse to dodge accountability before. But hold on, this is only the tip of a massive, terrifying scandal. What follows is a brutal, no-holds-barred takedown that rips the lid off the FBI's darkest secrets. A chilling enemies list with 60 names and 20 victims already destroyed, suspicious pauses in background investigations, shocking political loyalty tests, asking agents who they voted for, and the ruthless weaponization of America's most powerful law enforcement agency into a personal revenge machine under Kash Patel. Is the FBI still protecting the American people, or has it been completely hijacked by a vengeful director turning it into his own private hit squad? The shocking truths exploding in this hearing are far worse than anyone imagined. Stay tuned, because what comes next will leave you absolutely speechless.
Director Patel, welcome.
Thank you, sir.
When you were here for your confirmation, we talked about your so-called enemies list. It appears to me that there have been adverse actions of various kinds taken against about 20 of the 60 people on your enemies list. You've been in office for 7 months. At that rate, you've got 14 months until you've hit all 60. Can you explain that?
Again, that is an entirely inaccurate presupposition. I do not have an enemies list. You can continue to characterize it as you wish. The only actions we take, generally speaking, for personnel at the FBI are ones based on merit and qualification and your ability to uphold your constitutional duty. You fall short, you don't work there anymore.
Well, there was a list. You don't like it to be called an enemies list, and it had about 60 names, and about 20 have had an adverse action. So those are, I think, pretty clear facts.
What you just witnessed was not a simple disagreement over terminology. Kash Patel looked Senator Whitehouse dead in the eye and flat out lied about not having an enemies list, even as he was confronted with cold, hard proof that nearly 1/3 of the 60 people on that list had already been hit with adverse actions in just 7 months. This isn't random. This is a ruthless purge. And let's be crystal clear, that list didn't magically appear. It came straight from Patel's own 2023 book, Government Gangsters, where he personally named and attacked dozens of officials he wanted gone. According to reporting from the Associated Press, Senator Whitehouse's tally of 20 out of 60 was no exaggeration. It was built by cross-referencing Patel's own published targets against real personnel actions taken after he assumed power. Some of those actions are anything but minor. The Justice Department even issued an unusual public confirmation that it was actively investigating former FBI Director James Comey and former CIA Director John Brennan, 2 high-profile figures Patel had explicitly named in his book. This is who Kash Patel really is. He denies the list exists while actively checking names off it. He hides behind fake talk about merit and qualification, but everybody watching knows exactly what's happening. He's turning the FBI into his own personal revenge squad. Loyalty to Donald Trump and loyalty to Kash Patel, that's the only thing that matters now.
Kash Patel? No, he's doing a great job, I think.
This is dangerous as hell. The FBI is not supposed to be a political hit list operation. When agents see their colleagues getting axed for being on the wrong side of the director's grudge, the message is loud and clear. Keep your mouth shut, stay loyal, or you're finished. Patel can call it whatever he wants. The rest of us call it a disgrace.
Morale has never been better. When I go across the country and I talk to the line agents and the intelligence analysts and professional staff, I travel around the country, I talk to our state and local partners. They tell me one thing resoundingly: we're finally going to do the work that we were asked to do with the resources that we needed to get the job done. And that's what this administration is focused on. And that's why you're seeing the results that we talked about.
But while Kash Patel paints this rosy picture of sky-high morale, the reality on the ground is very different. Whistleblowers are coming forward, senior veterans are being fired as scapegoats, and the loyalty purge continues. Who are you really fooling, Director Patel? The enemies list was just the warm-up. What Whitehouse dropped next was even worse.
Let me move on to your grand jury testimony, which we also talked about when you were here. I think you indicated that you understood that a witness in the grand jury is free to discuss afterwards whatever they told the grand jury. And you then went on to suggest, saying, I can't go into court orders granted by the D.C. District Chief Judge, and you want me to violate a court order. In those remarks, you fairly plainly suggested that there was a court order of some kind that somehow restricted or limited your ability to discuss your own testimony to that grand jury. Since then, that chief judge that you mentioned, Judge Boasberg, has written, and I'm quoting him here, Federal Rule of Criminal Procedure 6E allows witnesses like Patel to divulge the contents of their testimony, meaning that nothing was preventing him from doing so before the committee. Can we confirm here today that there is no court order of any kind that limits your ability as a witness before the grand jury to discuss your own testimony to that grand jury?
We can confirm that pursuant to my action that that grand jury testimony has been released, the transcript.
Let's, in what forum was it released, may I ask?
Publicly.
Okay, we'll check on that. The FBI does background investigations. In the case of a U.S. attorney, Janine Pirro, it has come to light that in a civil proceeding, that Fox News executives, prior to her confirmation, called her, I'm quoting here, a reckless maniac who makes, quote, insane comments, and said, I don't trust her to be responsible, and noted her penchant for what they called random conspiracy theories on weird internet sites. My question to you is, did that turn up in her background investigation?
For any background investigation, Senator, we do not discuss those publicly. And for every background investigation, when there's an adjudication, it is not made by me. It is made by the career professionals who run the inspection division and background check system.
Do you know if that information was found? You see, we're an oversight body here, and there are really three possibilities here. One is that the FBI background investigation didn't find that stuff. That's worth noting because these investigations, full field background investigations, are supposed to find that stuff. That's possibility one. Possibility two is that the FBI did in fact find that information and then did not report it to the administration or to the committee. And the third is that you found it, you reported it to the administration, and they went ahead with her nomination knowing that she had been described as a reckless maniac who made insane comments, who wasn't trusted by colleagues to be responsible, and who had a penchant for random conspiracy theories on weird internet sites. Are you saying that this committee does not have any authority or reason to look into which of those things is true?
This committee can look into anything it wishes. I'm telling you that the background investigations that are done by the HRD division are done by career individuals. They do not report the details of those to me. They adjudicate those independently and individually. That's how it's always been done.
Let's slow down on that court order excuse, because it deserves far more scrutiny. The Judge Patel repeatedly hid behind Chief Judge James Boasberg of the D.C. District Court isn't some random name. He's one of the most attacked judges in the federal system right now. He's the same judge who blocked controversial deportation flights, presided over sensitive grand jury matters from the 2020 election probes, and was publicly called a radical left lunatic by President Trump himself, with reports of direct threats coming from within the Justice Department. So when Patel told Congress he couldn't discuss his own grand jury testimony because of a supposed court order from this judge, he wasn't citing some minor technicality. He was weaponizing the authority of a judge his own administration was targeting to stonewall the very Senate that confirmed him. Then Boasberg's actual ruling came out and destroyed the excuse. Under Federal Rule 6 Patel was free to speak the entire time. There was no order. There never was. Then Whitehouse turned to Jeanine Pirro, and the logic became impossible to escape. He laid out 3 brutal possibilities, and none of them looked good for Patel. Either the FBI's vetting completely missed Fox News executives calling her a reckless maniac who made insane comments, or they found it and buried it, or they reported it and the administration ignored it anyway, because loyalty trumped everything. Patel's response? He ducked behind career professionals and claimed he doesn't get involved. That's not leadership, that's abdication of responsibility. As FBI director, he owns every major background check. This isn't about one bad nomination. It's about whether the FBI under Kash Patel can still be trusted to protect the country. When vetting becomes politicized, national security crumbles. What Whitehouse exposed next was even more disturbing.
What happened during the pause of FBI background investigations that was alleged in the complaint against you and the FBI by the FBI agents who were terminated? On February 12th, Emil Bovee directed the FBI, quote, to pause any FBI background investigations of Trump nominees until Patel was confirmed, which happened on February 20th, is the general description of what they alleged. Why, do you know, were background investigations paused? Was it so material like this could be scrubbed out of them? And have they been resumed without that pause fully and normally after your arrival on February 20th?
I can speak to the time period since I got there. Background investigations have been ongoing across the board at the FBI.
Why was the pause, do you know?
I was not there.
Wasn't explained to you when you got there? Oh, by the way, boss, they've had an 8-day pause on background investigations. You think that would be something that would be explained to you at some point?
Again, I leave it to the men and women at HRD division to run background investigations. I do not interfere with them.
I get that. But what I don't get is whether you were told about that pause, and why would you not be told about that pause?
I don't recall that, sir.
All right. The allegation also relates that part of the employee review of senior staff was whether or not they voted for Kamala Harris in the 2024 election. Since when is who you voted for a proper question for agents to be asked?
I don't know what allegation you're referring to, Senator. If it's from an ongoing matter in litigation, I can't discuss that. But what I can discuss is I can only speak to the FBI's background investigations. There are other background investigations conducted across the government. I can only speak to mine.
So just to clarify, I'm not talking about the FBI full field background investigations. I'm talking about internal employee reviews for promotion, for termination, for job actions of various kinds. And my question to you is it now the policy of the FBI to ask agents who they voted for, and since when is who agents voted for a proper question for the FBI to ask?
Taking those in reverse order, it's not a proper question, and it's improper to allege that I'm doing that. And also at the FBI specifically, under my leadership, we do not ask who you voted for. And just one correction for the record, if I may, Senator, it's Security Division that runs background investigations, not HRD.
I don't recall that, sir. How incredibly convenient. An 8-day freeze on background investigations for Trump nominees, ordered at the highest levels, perfectly timed to end the exact day Kash Patel took office, and somehow the new director was never briefed? That's not an oversight, that's a massive red flag. That pause created the perfect window for inconvenient information to quietly disappear. Exactly like the damaging material on Jeanine Pirro that somehow never surfaced properly. Coincidence? No one with a straight face should buy that. And the voting question allegation isn't White House editorializing, it comes from a real complaint filed by terminated FBI agents who say internal reviews probed staff on how they voted in 2024. Patel quickly denied it was policy under his watch. But by now, under my leadership sounds more like a shield than any real accountability. He's happy to take the title, just not the responsibility. This is the consistent pattern throughout the entire hearing. Whenever White House gets specific dates, names, policies Patel suddenly doesn't recall, defers to career staff, or dodges with technicalities. No accountability, no straight answers. Just endless deflection. It's not just evasive. It's insulting. And what came next exposed Patel's breathtaking personal hypocrisy in the most disgusting way possible.
Back with us is Senator Sheldon Whitehouse. And Senator, it sounds like there's a new question for confirmation hearings for FBI directors. Will you use the plane for date night?
Yeah, he kind of teed this up for himself, old Patel did. He repeatedly, it wasn't just that once, he repeatedly attacked Chris Wray, who, by the way, had done great service to the Trump administration, providing cover for the fake Kavanaugh investigation. So he kind of has been turned on here, Chris Wray. But anyway, there's Patel attacking him over and over and over again about use of the FBI jet. So there's the hypocrisy. Then with all these Trump people, there's the entitlement. I mean, this is bling for them. They just want to eat up every executive perk they can get near. And frankly, the more they abuse it, the cooler it seems to be for them. So buzzing around the country in the FBI jet for dates with his girlfriend seems like an okay thing to them. And then what's really cheesy, I mean, the part that angers me here more than even just the waste, is that when he's caught, when he's busted doing something that stupid, instead of owning up to it, he takes it out on a 27-year FBI veteran who runs the Critical Incident Response Group, and he fires that person because his the tail number on his jet was being tracked the way the tail numbers on essentially every jet are being tracked. So there was nothing that the Critical Incident Response Team leader did that was wrong. Patel just needed a fall guy. And I got to believe that in an organization like the FBI, when you start doing things like that, it starts to poison the agency against you. And more whistleblowers begin to emerge because they know the boss is not competent and not decent and was bad for the organization that they serve and love.
Senator, about those whistleblowers, is someone on the Democratic side of the Senate Judiciary Committee penciling in a possible hearing if the Democrats win back the Senate of all of these people who have been fired in this Trump FBI?
Yeah, and actually, we're going to hear from them a good deal sooner than that because 3 senior FBI agents who were fired have filed a civil lawsuit contesting their firing. And as that proceeds, there's going to be the opportunity for discovery. And discovery is always the jewel of litigation.
This is the epitome of disgusting. While Kash Patel was busy purging the FBI, he was treating it like his own personal luxury service. Bloomberg Law exposed how he used official FBI jets to fly across the country for romantic dates with his musician girlfriend. When the tail numbers got noticed, he didn't own up to it. He fired a 7-year veteran, the head of the Critical Incident Response Group, just to have a fall guy. This is the same man who once attacked former director Chris Wray for jet usage. Stephen Palmer did nothing wrong. He was simply in charge of aviation when Patel got caught living like a king on the taxpayer's dime. And he wasn't the first, he was the 3rd head of that unit forced out during Patel's short tenure. Every time an unflattering story breaks, someone else takes the fall. Instead of taking responsibility, Patel needed a scapegoat. That kind of behavior is poisoning the entire FBI. Good agents are watching, and more whistleblowers are stepping forward. 3 senior agents have already filed a civil lawsuit, and the discovery process is about to rip this whole rotten operation wide open. Step back and look at the full picture White House exposed. A director who denies an enemies list while the numbers don't lie, a fake court order excuse destroyed by the judge himself, a background check scandal with no good answers, and a pattern of firing career professionals the moment he looks bad. Together, these aren't isolated mistakes. They paint the portrait of a man running the FBI less like a law enforcement agency and more like his personal political weapon. If you want to see how deep this politicization really goes, subscribe to Daily Brief right now and turn on notifications. Kash Patel's next hearing is coming, and so are the next headlines.